Alright, welcome back everyone to another ASMR video. So, I've collected Game Informer magazine since at least July 1998. Now, in 1998 I was 14 years old, so I was working at FuncoLand. Well, let me rephrase. At 14 years old, I would help out on the weekends. My mom would drop me off on a Saturday morning, and I'd stay all day until closing, just unofficially, for free, helping out the workers there at the store. And for those of you who live in Massachusetts, you may remember a mall called the Dedham Mall, and FuncoLand was there. It used to be in an old C.B. Perkins cigarette shop, and then when the mall, towards, the early 2000s, when the mall rearranged its stores and the settings of everything, it moved into across the way from the KB Toys and the Dedham Mall on the other end of the Bradley's side of the mall. I forget it. I think it used to be an Aspen Dental is where the new place for FuncoLand ended up going. However, you could say I had nothing better to do on the weekends as a 14-year-old kid. And I didn't. I either would play video games if my mom couldn't drive me to the mall, or I would just hang out there and hang out with the employees. And, they pretty much had me become an unofficial mascot, if you will, of the store. And Thanksgiving of the following year, 1999, so I would have been 15, there was a first in the FuncoLand corporate history. I was the first employee to officially get to be hired before the age of 16. 16 was the minimum age they would allow anyone to work there. And I was 15. I would turn 16 in the year 2000, January of 2000. But anyway, you worked on commission at FuncoLand back in the day. Back in the day, you got paid every 2 weeks your regular hours, and then the week you didn't get paid your hours, you got your commission check. And you would get paid commission on two different items. You got paid on a Game Informer subscription. I think you got $2 for every subscription you sold. And I think the cleaning kits for like the NES and the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, those cleaning kits I think netted you $2.50. Now we're talking, 24 years ago? No, 26 years ago, actually. 25. It would have been 1999, so 25 years ago. But I would probably bring home commission checks $80 to $100 every other week, working part-time. Statistically, I was the top seller in the Boston district. Even though Dedham wasn't part of Boston, it was considered the Boston district. And so I did pretty well for myself, and at an early age, I knew I could sell, right? And I've been in sales my whole life. But anyway, this apparently is the first ever copy of Game Informer I ever had. Unless those are out of order under my cabinet, under my TV there in the game room, I think this is the first magazine I ever had of Game Informer. And as you can see, it's falling apart right here. There's a rip. And then over here, you may or may not see, looks like a glare is coming down here, but the pages are messed up. But anyway, let's take a look. Hopefully we can see what's going on in here. So, as you can see, it shows at the top, Nintendo, Sega, Sony, PC, arcades, codes, strategies, and classics. And there's a article about the diabolical adventures of Tobu. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think this game ever came out. I don't recall a game like this, or if it did come out, it might have been changed to a different name. But we'll take a look. We'll see what it's all about. Here it's also showing Mission Impossible. Now remember, this Mission Impossible game came out for, I believe, 3 systems. It came out for the N64, it came out for the PS1, and I believe a copy of the game came out for the Game Boy Color. Obviously different games, but And then some of the other games in this issue that you could have seen: See the Contra Adventure, Abe's Exodus. These are all PS1 games. The First Siphon Filter, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Wetrix, that would have been for the N64, Rogue Trip, PS1 game, Game Day 99, Sony's football game, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, Sony game, Blitz, could have been for any of the PS1 or 64, I don't know which, and then Tombo was a PlayStation game. And then here you have Jet Force Gemini, Spyro the Dragon, and Final Fantasy VIII. So, let's take a look. Back then, you could buy this just by itself in the US for $3.95. Today, 25 years later, they charge you $7.99 inside of a GameStop. $7.99 for the magazine. Now, having said that, it's also a much bigger magazine. I think this magazine is only, I would say, maybe 45 pages. Well, we're at page 41. That's about 60, 70 pages long, 66 pages. I think the magazines nowadays are double that. So it makes sense. But anyway, the first thing we come into is an advertisement for Gran Turismo. 166 cars, 11 tracks, and one checkered flag. Think you're a good driver? Put your skills to the test with Gran Turismo, the most challenging and realistic driving game ever designed for the PlayStation game console. Real racing pales in comparison. Customize your car. As a winning GT driver, your bank account will grow with every race. But don't treat your friends to lobster and caviar just yet. With GT, you can A, buy a faster engine, B, tune your suspension, or C, invest in extras like new tires. Then use a PlayStation brand memory card to save your car's customizations. I remember when this game was first released, it blew people away. At the time, these were cutting-edge graphics. It literally took the PlayStation console to its innards. I mean, it literally eked every ounce of graphical capability out of the PlayStation, to the point where people were talking about how amazing they were able to get the graphics and the horsepower of this game to even run on the PlayStation. Here's another advertisement, this time for Mike Piazza's Strike Zone. Now, this was an N64 exclusive game. And the thing about the thing about Mike Piazza's Strike Zone is that the game was terrible. And it was a running joke. When the pitcher threw the ball, you automatically knew if it was a ball or a strike. Because in this game, I believe if the pitch was a ball, the pitch would come out of the pitcher's hand. Immediately the ball would be blue, so you knew not to swing. And if the pitch was red, you immediately knew it was a strike. And I don't think you could even change that in the options. It was that's how you had to play the game. So I found that pretty interesting. Okay. Here's pretty cool. This is pretty cool. So Natsume, right? Here's two adverts for Game Boy, original Game Boy games back in 1998. I don't know if you guys can see this. Hold on, it looks like this is getting cut out a little. Here we go. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Yeah, here we are. We'll just move. We'll keep moving it. But so here you have Legend of the River King. Legend of the River King Game Boy is the first and only game that combines the action of a fishing game with a dynamic RPG story for a unique game experience. However, there's a catch. Instead of fighting the usual bunch of monsters, you'll battle with 40 different species of fish. But this isn't drowning a few worms for fun. You're on a quest to save your little sister, or your ill sister. The only chance to save your sister is to reel in the magical guardian fish. To land this whale of a fish, you'll have to travel the land selling your prize catches for money. Only after buying the best equipment and gaining experience will you be able to conquer this trophy catch. with hours and hours of exciting gameplay. Once you play Legend of the River King, you'll be hooked. And then there was an N64 version coming soon, it said. I don't know if it ever did come out. It could have, it might have. And then Harvest Moon Game Boy. So, wake up with the sun, feed the chickens, milk the cows, and don't forget to go to the market, all before breakfast. The Super NES Classic Harvest Moon is now available for the Nintendo Game Boy, with all of the charm of the original and many new surprises. Designed to reward hard work and smart decision-making, Harvest Moon GB is a unique blend of a role-playing and a farming simulation game. Since this game is compatible with the Game Boy Link, you can exchange animals and seeds with your friends to create your own unique ranch. Best of all, Harvest Moon GB offers a greater variety of characters, crops, and animals to choose from, making each game's outcome more fun and less predictable. Oh no, you forgot to plow the fields. Looks like no dinner tonight. It's kind of ridiculous, but... Okay, so here are the cover features here. Cover story's Mission Impossible. A feature, a talk with the talent behind Tobu. And Ninja Uncovered. The reviews and previews for the Nintendo 64. You had All-Star Baseball 99, Mortal Kombat 4, Quest 64, BioFreaks, Wetrix, World Grand Prix, and NASCAR 99. For the PlayStation, they covered Jersey Devil, Tomba, Spyro the Dragon, Abe's Exodus, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, C the Contra Adventure, Rogue Trip, Siphon Filter, NFL Extreme, Vigilante 8, X-Men vs. Street Fighter EX Edition, and the Grand Stream Saga, and then a game called Streak. And then at a glance, for the PlayStation, you had BioFreaks, Azure Dreams, Castle of Deception, Crime Killer, Brunswick Circuit Pro Bowling, Shadow Madness, Cartia, Fight Night, Cool Borders 3, VR Baseball 99, Capcom Generations 1 1942 series, Capcom Generations 2, Ghouls and Ghosts series, N2O Nitrous Oxide, Command & Conquer Retaliation, and then for the Nintendo 64, there was Mike Piazza's Strike Zone. So now we have an Eidos Interactive advert here. Ninja Shadow of Darkness. This was one of the most underrated games I think I've ever played. And I remember Game Informer gave this game a review. It gave it a 6.5. It didn't really like it that much. I thought it was very good. Then we have Tomb Raider 2 starring Lara Croft, and then Omicron, the Nomad Soul. So we have those. Some letters to the editor. They made a joke, apparently from Forestville, Maryland. A guy by the name of Bradley Pitt sent a letter in, and they used this Photoshop photo of Brad Pitt, the actual actor, with a copy of Game Informer. Alright, so Mission Impossible, interesting. This got an 8 out of 10. And I could have sworn this game didn't get a good review, but apparently it did. Now this is pretty cool to see. Andy the Game Hombre, they had, back in the day, they had little not catchphrases, but little titles for themselves. And I believe towards the end, Andy eventually became the editor-in-chief. And then he stepped down, and Reiner the Raging Gamer became editor-in-chief. And then he stepped down, and I have no idea who it is now. But this is around 2018 to 2022, when, aside from that fracas when Game Informer when GameStop stock skyrocketed and made people millionaires overnight, and I regret not buying it. I could have easily bought it at $4 a share, but I thought to myself, well, this is a losing proposition. You'd be an idiot if you did this. Not that I knew, of course, that what happened, but yeah, apparently this got an 8 out of 10, so the replay value is moderate. Let's see what Reiner said about this. He gave the concept an 8.2 out of 5 out of 10. He gave the graphics a 7.75 out of 10. The sound 7.75 out of 10. Playability 8.25 out of 10. And entertainment was an 8.5. So Mission Impossible borrowed a few ideas from GoldenEye, but still didn't come close to topping it in look, play, or entertainment. In fact, if I wasn't such a hardcore gamer, I think that Mission came out well before GoldenEye. To be fair though, Mission does more than enough to satisfy game players and more so GoldenEye fans. The graphics are nothing to holler home about, but the gameplay will tickle you in places you didn't know you had. The key to this game's success is variety, and there's plenty of it. All of the tools, weapons, and mission objectives offer a good time indeed. Some of the levels just plain suck, but along with the bad, Infogrames has thrown in a few levels that you will remember for quite some time. Interesting. Got an 8 out of 10. Did not know that. Then we have more of the cover story here. It gives you a little strategy to some of the missions. Looks like it might cover all of the missions. It does. This is cool. $19.98 a year for 12 issues, right? $19.98 a year for 12 issues. Game Informer for about 4 to 6 months, or maybe even a little bit longer, stopped giving out physical copies to its subscribers. You had to obviously subscribe through GameStop, and it was digital only. And I was mad about that. You could buy them inside the GameStop itself, but you could not subscribe for physical copies. Well, recently, they finally allowed to purchase separate memberships physically for just the magazine. And I think I did a 2-year subscription to $36 or so. Well, I haven't seen my first issue yet, but that's pretty good. It's cheaper now for 2 years than it would have been for 2 years back 25 years ago. This would have been $40. Now, to be fair, they only give out, I think, 10 issues a year and not 12. I think there are 2 months now that they just don't do an issue at all. So I get why this would be a little bit more expensive. So all in all, it's pretty much the same price 25 years later, which is cool, which is nice. Okay, here is a Nintendo 64 advert for Chopper Attack. Okay. You don't have time for polishing porcelain. You need to be taking on 8 of the deadliest missions ever handed down to a pilot. Rescuing POWs under enemy fire. Protecting Air Force One from being blown out of the sky. Taking out terrorist installations. Tell your recruiter the haircut will have to wait. You're busy. This is from Midway, who doesn't exist anymore. Okay, the Diabolical Adventures of Tobu. What system was this supposed to have come out for? I really don't think this game ever came out. Here's Ninja Shadow of Darkness. I love this game. There's a little interview here with the... who'd they interview? The head of development for Core Design. Okay. Alright, so look at this. Sega unveils new system. Look at this. In Japan, Sega Enterprises recently unveiled its next system. Dubbed the Dreamcast, the system will be released in Japan on November 20th and in North America in the fall of 1999. While little details were given concerning software, some of the machine specs were revealed. So listen to these specs, guys. Can you see this right here? Yeah, you should be able to. So the CPU is the custom Hitachi SH4, RISC processor 200 MHz, the GPU custom NEC Power VR2 capable of 3 million polygons per second, 16 megabytes of RAM, Yamaha Super Intelligent Sound Processor for the sound. The OS is the Microsoft Windows CE based hybrid. CD drive 12X, and modem internal 33.3 kilobytes. Sega announced that the Dreamcast will also have an external memory card called the Visual Memory System, VMS, which later turned into the VMU, the Virtual Memory Unit. This card has a built-in LCD screen and has been dubbed by Sega as the world's smallest portable game card with an LCD screen. The VMS is described as a portable gaming unit that can be used to not only save game data, but to develop secret plays in a football game or set up special moves in a fighting game. Like the Nintendo 64, the Dreamcast comes with 4 built-in controller ports, and Sega plans to release a multitude of controller colors. That I don't think ever came to fruition. I think the different colors, if they were any, I think one was black, and I think one was like orange for a sports bundle, but I don't think there were multiple colors. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The controller itself is reminiscent of the Saturn's analog controller, but houses a port that accepts the VMS card. Sega definitely has high hopes for the Dreamcast, and expects to sell close to 1 million units in the machine's first 3 months of release. Stay tuned to Game Informer for more updates on the Dreamcast. Now, here are some top 10 lists. Editor's Top 10 Games for July 1998. So you had NBA Courtside was number 1 for the N64. All-Star Baseball 99 was number 2 for the N64. Wetrix was 3 for the N64. MLB 99 was number 4 for the PlayStation 1. Forsaken was number 5 for the N64. Tomba was number 6 for the PS1. Gran Turismo was number 7 for the PS1. Tekken 3 was number 8 for the PS1. Mission Impossible was number 9 for the N64. And Banjo-Kazooie filled out the top 10 for the N64. Alright, now the Reader's Top 10 Games for July. Right over here, we had Dragon Force for the Saturn. That was number 1. Number 2 was Need for Speed 3 for the PS1. Number 3 was NBA Shootout 98 for the PS1. Number 4 was 1080 Snowboarding for the N64. Number 5 was Gran Turismo for the PS1. Number 6 was GoldenEye 007 for the N64. Number 7 was Resident Evil 2 for the PS1. Number 8 was Tomb Raider 2 for the PS1. Number 9, WCW vs. NWO World Tour for the N64. And number 10 was Final Fantasy VII for the PS1. Then here, it's showing some football games that are about to come out. Different ones. So Quarterback Club 99 for the N64, Game Day 99 for the PS1, and then Madden 99 for both the N64 and the PS1. So there's that. Quarterback Club, and same with All-Star Baseball, those games from Acclaim, when Acclaim was still a studio, I'll never forget it. I saw the gameplay for All-Star Baseball 99 for the N64. And I never in my life saw graphics amazing as that. And so I had a Saturn. I was a Sega person through and through. And I remember reading in one of these magazines that, which leads me to believe that I had Game Informer magazines before this one, unless this is the one that it said it in, or one of the ones after this very, very soon. But I remember reading that Sega was going to stop supporting the Saturn, so it's a time, if you're ready to get out of it, get out of it. And so I did, and I ended up trading everything I had for an N64 with All-Star Baseball 99. Eventually I traded in my N64 for a PlayStation, and the rest is history. Okay, well, this is interesting. So, let's see. Nintendo to manufacture games in U.S., prices to drop. So this never happened. So here they're saying they're trying to match the PlayStation 1 price of games from $39 to $49. And as you may remember, based on how old you are, N64 games, when they came out, were $69.99 to $79.99. They were $30 to $40 more than the PlayStation games were. And the PlayStation games, because they were CD based, were bigger, had more memory and everything else. So here's a Working Designs advertisement for Elemental Gearbolt Magic Technology Annihilation. Elemental Gearbolt for the PS1. Let's see. There's Brett Favre holding a Game Informer. Let's see here. NBA Jam 99. This is interesting. I remember. So NBA Jam 99 for the N64, again by Acclaim. There were two modes. There was the old style NBA Jam mode that you could play, or you could play a simulation mode like every other basketball game. And I remember Bill Walton used to do the, Kevin Harlan did the play-by-play, but Bill Walton did the commentary. I remember Bill Walton in that game. Activision supplying 2 games for the N64. Nightmare Creatures. It was called Nightmare Creatures 64. And Quake 2, but I think that was called Quake 64, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Rare's mystery game revealed. Jet Force Gemini. I think one of the last games Rare came out. No, they came out with Conquer, I think, after that. Okay, so here are some new releases. This is interesting. So in June of 1998. What month is this? July. Okay, that makes sense. So June of 1998. Let's see. You had Harvest Moon for the Game Boy, Flying Dragon for the N64, GT Racing for the N64, Quest 64 for the N64, Wetrix for the N64, Grandstream Saga for the PS1, Silhouette Mirage for the PS1, Banjo-Kazooie for the N64, Off-Road Challenge for the N64, and Off-Road Challenge for the PS1. Now in July, Heart of Darkness for the PS1, Mission Impossible for the N64, WWF Warzone, NFL Extreme, Pocket Fighter, Tomba, and Turbo Prop Racing, all for the PS1. Mulan for the Small Soldiers came out for the Game Boy, as well as Wheel of Fortune for the Game Boy. Wait a minute now. Wheel of Fortune from Take-Two Interactive in 1998 for the Game Boy. Is that true? The only Wheel of Fortune game for the Game Boy came from GameTech in the, I want to say, early 90s. There's no way that could be the same game. And there was never a Wheel of Fortune for the Game Boy Color. I don't think that game ever came out. Also, you had Deadly Arts for the N64, Wily Golf for the N64, Dead Unity for the PS1, and Warzone for the N64. In August, for the PS1, you had Battleship and Command & Conquer Retaliation, Iggy's Wrecking Balls for the N64, Sentinel Returns for the PS1. For both the N64, you had International Superstar Soccer 98 and the infamous Superman 64 for the N64. Then you had PS1, you had Cardinal Sin, Montezuma's Return for the Game Boy. Now, I believe that was a Game Boy Color game. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. And then for the N64, you had Caesar's Palace and Gex Enter the Gecko. And then PS1 games, Blast Radius, Brunswick Bowling, Lunar Silver Star Story, Redneck Rampage, and F-Zero X rounded out August for the N64. And September was a big release month. Ninja, Shadow of Darkness for the PS1, Fighting Force for the N64, as well as Madden 99. And then for the PS1, a bunch of games, Fighting Force 2, Mega Man Legends, Madden NFL 99, NCAA Gamebreaker 99, NFL Game Day 99, Spyro the Dragon, Castle of Deception, Tiger Woods 99, and the first Grand Theft Auto. For the Game Boy, you had In Fisherman's Bass Hunter, Definitely Game Boy Color. I don't know why they didn't put GBC there, because that was definitely not a regular Game Boy game. And then for both the N64 and the PS1, Earthworm Jim 3D. And then for the PS1, Monster Rancher 2, Duke Nukem Time to Kill. And both the N64 and PS1 had copies of Blitz. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think Earthworm Jim ever came out for the N64. I could be wrong on that. If I am, tell me. All right, here we go. Here are some reviews. So, first up, All-Star Baseball 99, which is right here. And this game got an 8.5 out of 10 overall. Very good game. Graphics, 8.75, 8.5, and 8.5. The sound, everybody rated the sound pretty bad. So here you had John the Greedy Gamer, Paul the Game Professor, and Reiner. Mortal Kombat 4 for the N64 got an 8.5 out of 10. Andy the Game Hombre rated it the lowest of any of them, while Paul rated it the highest at 9 out of 10. Let's see. Here's an advertisement for Jersey Devil for the PS1. And this actually goes here to little this. And then Quest 64 got terrible reviews, 6.5 out of 10. John rated it the lowest. Concept was a 6, graphics were a 7, sound was a 6, playability was a 5, and entertainment was a 6, so the overall was a 6. And here's what he said. An RPG should quickly light your fires with spell branching, sweet items, and some new characters, not to mention a good story. But Quest 64 did none of this. The storyline is 100% linear. You go to the forest, then to the castle, then to the next town. You never have more than one choice, and the characters in the towns and castles seem to have absolutely nothing going on, which makes the conversation completely boring. With no humor or clever writing, the story is worthless. The original concept of the 4 spell elements was a good place to start, but the finished product is so limiting that I quickly lost interest in learning my next spell. Until Zelda, just play your SNES. This was made by THQ. Well, this is cool. Here is a FuncoLand advertisement for both Mortal Kombat 4 for both N64 and PS1. And the first 5,000 purchases receive a neat MK4 comic book, and here's a coupon. It expired June 30th, 1998. $5 PCM credit. Trade in your old working PlayStation or N64 fighting game and receive an additional $5 bonus above the values offered at FuncoLand when you present this coupon. That's pretty cool. Then, BioFreaks for the N64 got a 4.5 out of 10. Little blurbs. Andy the Game Hombre says, simply put, BioFreaks looks great and plays horribly. I like the characters in this game a lot, but the overall execution is just unacceptable. For fight fanatics, it may be worth a rental, but everyone else should just steer clear. Paul the Game Professor says, it can be said that this game has a great 3D engine and fairly tough AI, but the fact that Midway balked on an arcade release makes me wonder about the overall quality. It is short on characters and the control is not up to par. And then Reiner the Raging Gamer says, case in point, graphics do not make a game. BioFreaks delivers the goods in character models and arenas, but the gameplay goes beyond pathetic. A big disappointment indeed. Right here. See if you can see this right here. And then Wetrix for the N64 got an 8.25. So I didn't even see these. It blended in. So Andy overall rated this a 4 out of 10. Paul gave it a 6.25 out of 10. And Reiner, 3.5 out of 10. And Reiner rated the playability a 1.25 out of 10. Wetrix, 8.25. The lowest score was Andy, giving it a 7.75. And then here we have some previews. 80% complete, World Grand Prix for the N64. NASCAR 99, 70% complete for the N64. So we have these. For the PS1, Jersey Devil got a 6 out of 10. The lowest score was Reiner once again with a 5.75 overall and gave the playability a 3 out of 10. This character is pretty cool. Then again, I'm a sucker for anyone who resembles Batman in some sort of twisted way. But I'm no fool when it comes to games, and let me be the first to tell you that Jersey Devil is garbage. Manipulating this masked marvel to do your bidding is almost impossible. The camera is always a problem, and the controls are really sticky. There are plenty of secrets and areas to explore, and the cartoon FMVs are amusing, but without the dynamic gameplay, all of this is worthless. The PlayStation has a slew of great platformers on the way, but if you have to pick between the rodents available now, I say go for the orange one, and from here on in, remember that the purple ones do not know how to platform. Tama got an 8.25 out of 10, and Reiner again had the lowest score, 8 out of 10 on that one. And here's a preview for Spyro the Dragon with, I believe, what's-his-face did the voice of Spyro. I want to say it was the guy who played The Hobbit. Am I right on that? No. Carlos Alzacuri. Interesting. I don't think that's true. I don't think it was him that did the voice. I want to say it was... can't think of his name. Elijah Wood that did the voice of Spyro. I could be wrong. Okay, let's see. Oddworld Abe's Exodus. Here's another preview. And here's a preview for Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, 69% complete. Oddworld was 60% complete. Here is Crash, and here is Oddworld. What else do we have here? We have the Contra Adventure, 40% complete. And if I recall, I'm pretty sure this game did not get good reviews. It was not good. Rogue Trip, 60% complete for the PS1. Sort of like a Twisted Metal clone. We have Siphon Filter Preview, 50% complete. This was Sony's answer, their own version, if you will, of Metal Gear Solid. And then NFL Extreme, 90% complete. This was Sony's answer to Midway's Blitz. And I remember this got a 6.5 out of 10 in Game Informer. I remember that wholeheartedly. Here's some little mini reviews. So Vigilante 8 for the PS1 got a 7.5. John, interestingly enough, Reiner had the highest rating for this game, but John gave it the lowest. So Reiner says, from the vehicle designs to the effects and detail in environments, V8's look is to drool over, but the gameplay is rather unimpressive. The controls are extremely fidgety, and the computer AI is horrid. And after saying all of that, he still gave the game a 7.5 out of 10. John says, don't believe the graphics hype. This game has huge problems. The one player is decent, especially the first-person view, but the enemies are totally stupid, and the whole quest mode is way too easy. Then X-Men vs. Street Fighter EX Edition got a 7.5 out of 10. The Grand Stream Saga, 6.5 out of 10. And then Streak is 50% complete. Some PC reviews for the computer. They reviewed Centurium, gave it a 6.5 out of 10. They reviewed Forsaken, and they gave that a 9 out of 10. And then Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven, gave this a 7.75 out of 10. And then recent releases, SWAT 2 gave a 6 out of 10. Outwars got a 6 out of 10. Redline Racer got a 7 out of 10. And Spec Ops got a 7.5 out of 10. Then you have some back issues. Want the hottest tips delivered right to your door, the same advertisement. But you could also buy back issues for $5.95, which included shipping and handling. That's pretty cool back then. Arcade Brigade. This is some arcade games that were coming out in the future. All right, at a glance reviews. Here's the Piazza Strike Zone. This is what I was talking about. I don't know if you can see this. See if I can zoom in here. You might be able to see that there's blue when the pitcher's throwing the ball, which means it's a ball. You don't have to swing. I don't know if you guys can see that, but here we go. So Mike Piazza Strike Zone got a 4.25 out of 10. So here's what they said. When compared to the other N64 baseball titles, Piazza comes up way short. It has all of the necessities like a creative player, draft, stat tracking, and 1998 rosters, but the gameplay is light years behind All-Star Baseball and Griffey. Piazza's flaws are everywhere. The animation is extremely choppy, the ball has no movement, and the trail effects are just plain goofy. In addition to this, the fly ball noises are annoying, and the 900-foot home runs are impossible, even for McGwire. On the bright side, though, the stadiums look nice, the hitting interface is fast and easy to manipulate, and the edit team option is sweet. But let's face the facts. Griffey and All-Star simply crushed this game. So then we had some previews, a bunch of PS1 previews. We had Brunswick Circuit Pro Bowling, 75% complete. Shadow Madness, 20% complete at this point. Cartia, 20% complete. Fight Night, 40% complete. And Cool Borders 3, 30% complete. VR Baseball 99 for the PS1 got a 7 out of 10. And then PlayStation Preview. I don't know if these ever came out. These are called Capcom Generations, and I don't think they ever came out. I have to double check. But if they did, I have to pick these up. But I don't think they ever did. Azure Dreams for the PS1 got an 8 out of 10. Castle of Deception from Tecmo. This is 60% complete. And Crime Killers is 80% complete here. BioFreaks for the PS1 got even a worse review than the N64 game did. Or maybe they got the same review, I forget already. But 3.5 out of 10. BioFreak stands for Biological Flying Robotic Enhanced Armored Killing Synthesoids, or Synthoids. Most importantly, it means characters that fly. This is made possible by jump jets and enhanced by various multi-tiered 3D arenas. Also contributing to BioFreaks is a lot of gore and blood that spills as often as a rollerblader on an ice rink. If excessive blood flow gets under your skin, wait until you see the dismemberments. Characters constantly get something severed, whether it be an arm, leg, or head. Even with both arms missing, however, it's still possible to grasp victory. That's terrible. Or how about, when both legs missing, you can still rise up and meet the challenge. That's a stretch. Whoops, there we go again. Neat concept, but it sucks. N2O Nitrous Oxide got an 8.25 out of 10. And here's a preview for Command & Conquer Retaliation, 90% complete. And then there are some codes. It shows all the Mortal Kombat 4 moves for the... Does it say what series? What... Is it PlayStation 1? Doesn't say. I think it's for both games, N64 and PS1. Some Banjo and Kazooie little strategy guides for two of the levels, or for 4 of the levels right now. And then Secret Access. Here are some codes. So they gave you codes for Star Wars Shadows of the Empire for the N64, 1080 Snowboarding for the N64, NHL Breakaway 98 for the N64, Mike Piazza Strike Zone for the N64, Cruisin' USA, N64, Snowboard Kids, N64, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, N64, and then Warhammer Dark Omen for the PS1, Turok Battle of the Binosaurs for the Game Boy, Kobe Bryant's NBA Courtside for the N64, Cool Borders 2 for the PS1, San Francisco Rush for the PS1, and Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit for the PS1. Hot Shots Golf for the PS1, Dead or Alive for the PS1, Bloody Roar, PS1, Powerboat Racing for the PS1, Tomba for the PS1, Speed Racer, PS1, Beast Wars Transformers, PS1, Rascal for the PS1, Blasto for the PS1, and Mortal Kombat 4 for both N64 and PS1. It gives you different combat codes. Also Game Shark, video game enhancer codes for different games. Blasto for the PS1, Bloody Roar for the PS1, Dead or Alive for the PS1, MLB 99 for the PS1, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit for the PS1, Point Blank for the PS1, Saga Frontier for the PS1, San Francisco Rush for the PS1, Theme Hospital PS1, GoldenEye 007 for the PS1. I didn't think GoldenEye 007 came out for the PS1, unless it's a different game. That's interesting. And then WCW versus the NWO World Tour. That was for the N64. And then here's some classic codes for old school games. So they got Contra for the NES, Life Force for the NES, Narc for the NES, Mission Impossible for the NES, Killer Instinct for the SNES, Nosferatu for the SNES, Prince of Persia for the Game Boy, Operation C for the Game Boy, The Lion King for the Game Gear, Bomberman for the NES, Space Harrier for the Game Gear as well. And then they had some old school reviews in this episode, or in this magazine here, this issue. They also have some old school reviews. This one was for the Sega Genesis Echo the Tides of Time, and it got an 8 out of 10. The puzzles in Echo are challenging, and at times they may be a little too difficult. Nevertheless, with 40 levels, the second installment provides hours of mind-boggling adventure. Throughout the quest, Echo will encounter sharks, jellyfish, crabs, and a huge squid. As for the final boss, well, wavy balls never look so cool or devious. To battle these monsters of the deep, Sega has given Echo a few attacks. Echo's basic nose dash returns from the original game, and you can gain various attacks for Echo's sonar as you proceed through the adventure. The graphics are above par. Sega uses more than the Genesis' 64 color maximum, and the characters animate smoothly. Also, the first-person levels are artfully executed. Although the music isn't terrible, if you own a Sega CD, buy that version. Your ears will be in for a real treat. And then for the SNES, they reviewed a game called Space Megaforce. It's a rare game, they said. Rare. It was made by Toho, the same makers of Godzilla. But this got a 9 out of 10, and here's what they said. Space Megaforce is a refreshing dose of old-school shooter action. On wacky and hyper modes, enemies unload tons of bullets and lasers everywhere. This makes the game's 11 levels difficult. Don't worry, though. This insane shooter isn't a one-hit wonder. Your ship can take multiple hits depending on your weapons level. To destroy the opposition, Toho includes 8 different weapons with 6 levels of power, and you can choose variations of a weapon by using the R button. The graphics in Megaforce were ahead of their time. With brightly colored levels, huge bosses, and lots of Mode 7 effects, you may wonder whether you're playing on a next-generation system. Toho includes a short game option which allows beginners to warm up before the real challenge. And in the break mode, you can listen to the rocking music while scaling and rotating an enemy ship. If you can find a copy of Megaforce, buy it. You won't be disappointed. Here is a $10 advertisement, a $10 gift certificate towards... So if you purchase Banjo and Kazooie for $49.95 at FuncoLand, you're going to receive a $10 FuncoLand Nintendo gift certificate. And it expired September 30th, 1998. And then the back of the magazine, there's an advertisement for War Games DEFCON 1 for the PS1. So, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me through 25 years ago. An issue of Game Informer magazine. And the interesting thing about this is, I really do not believe the Diabolical Adventures of Tobu ever got released. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. As soon as I finish recording this video, I'm going to Google this to see if it ever came out. There's a couple other games I don't think ever came out. Wheel of Fortune, for the Game Boy or Game Boy Color made by Take-Two Interactive. I don't think that ever came out. And I don't think Earthworm Jim for the N64 either came out also. So those are three questions that 25 years later, I'm pretty sure these games never showed up. I appreciate all of you. Comment in the section below if there's any type of videos you want to see. I do have some role plays coming up. I think a couple years ago I had one of my subscribers comment and want a bookstore role play about the author. Let's see if I can see him behind me here. Let's see, the book series, or the author Darren Shan. Darren Shan wrote the Cirque du Freak series and the Demonata series as well. And then the prequel series to Cirque du Freak, the Larton Crespley series as well. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for some video game pickup videos in the future. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.